All right, you're watching TVC Breakfast. Now, let's get to our next discussion. Reactions are still trailing the speech made by President Bola Tinubu on the economic state of the country and some measures reeled out to fulfill his campaign promises and ease the hardship faced by Nigerians. President Tinubu, in his speech, again promised to collaborate with labor unions to introduce a new realistic national living wage for workers to help meet up with their needs, provide funding for micro, small and medium-sized enterprises, ensure food price stability, provide mass transit for Nigerians to aid transportation, among others. He pleaded with Nigerians to remain patient and trust his administration. He said, and I quote, that I plead with you to please have faith in our ability to deliver and in our concern for your well-being. We will get out of this turbulence, and due to the measures we have taken, Nigeria will be better equipped to take advantage of the future that awaits her. End of quote. That is the crux of our discussion. Joining us in the studio is a lawyer and former secretary in Nigerian Bar Association, Stephen Obajaja. It's nice to have you stay with us right now.
Thank you.
There was a statement you made earlier, that borders around the issue of administration after administration have disappointed Nigerians, even when they make promises, even when they come up with programs and all of that, one way or the other, maybe along the line, maybe they had good intention, but when it comes to this thing playing out, it always doesn't play out well, or in most cases, if I have to put it that way. So when it comes to trust, Nigerians, when government says anything, you take it with a pinch of salt. Let's wait to see. We don't trust it because you've broken our heart for so many times. So, and we see government is a continuum. Whether you change the pilot, the plane remains. So when it comes to the issue of trust, I want to stand on that because it goes a long way. Is this the time to trust the government?
We have no choice. It is time to trust the government and trust President Tinubu. And in a way, he has earned that trust a bit, not always yet. He's doing what he said he will do. We are having troubles and issues with it. Things are difficult for all of us. But like I said before, it is better to act than not to act. At least the president is acting. And when it comes to trust, we are not only the ones who should trust the president and the government. The government should trust us too. The government should trust Nigerians. And I like what he's saying about helping the economy, about helping people. Nigerians before now, the rich, the famous, the poor, the elites, and whatever, in whatever category, when we take loans or when government disposes funds for us or to us for a particular venture, we usually look at it as if it's a largesse. The government must also have been wary of that when they were formulating these policies to help Nigerians and all that. Now, you say you are going to give 50,000 naira each to nano economic players, very small. I think the government should trust these people that these funds will be utilized for what they are meant, and in the end, our economy will grow. Then I also want to implore these people, nano funds, then the SME funds, 500 to 100 million, 500 to 100 million. We should no longer see these things as a largesse anymore. Wherever we once were, we are no longer there. Things are so difficult. Life is difficult for all of us now, and we are seeing it. Let these funds go to the right things. Let us utilize these funds for what we say we will utilize it for. If we do this, then the trust will flow from top to bottom, and from bottom to the top. I implore our people, nano businessmen, SMEs, this is not the time to graduate from small stout to big stout. Yeah, that's what our people do.
Or from one wife to two wives.
Or three. or four.
We're talking about 1 billion naira now for one manufacturing company. right? It's also part of the
Yes,
program. that
75,
the president
75
has.
billion for 75.
75, right?
Yes.
So, well, it just goes to buttress, your position that there is also need for the people to also be transparent, because yes, you could argue that there are not so many businesses that the president has talked about, but when you add all of this together, it's a lump sum. People are even going as far as calling it 500 billion naira package that the president unveiled yesterday.
Yes, it's actually 500 billion naira.
Yes, but then there is also, like you said, now the need for the people to be transparent, with how this money is, when this monies eventually get to them, how these monies are used.
Yes, we were talking about the question of trust when I mentioned all this. You see, the trouble with our country, like I said, there is no shortage of ideas. Now, 75 billion for 75 businesses. How are we going to identify these businesses? What are the status of these businesses? Who are the CEOs? Then, when you leave out the CEOs, there are line managers. The CEO will set the policy, the way the company will go, but he will not be there to really see the way things go. It is the line managers and others who supervise others who will get this job done. Again, this can work, and it should work, if we all believe that Nigeria ought to move forward. We ought to live where we are now. If we really believe that this is the time for us to get serious, considering what is happening across the world, even better economies with a lot of money and productivity are suffering today because of the global issues around economic downturn and political upheavals. So Nigeria are businesses. What I said about nano businesses and the SMEs also has to do with the big businesses who deal in billions. How sincere are our people? What know-how do we have? Are we sure we are ready for this revolution?
But isn't that everybody or most people will say that the private sector has been more effective and more efficient than the public sector, isn't it? So the point there is, if there's a 1 billion naira available for any enterprise of that level, it is believed that these companies would have been on ground for some time, have been sustaining themselves. So will there still be the challenge of how to trust the enterprises to utilize the 1 billion naira credit they'll be accessing?
Usually, things happen in Nigeria and there are no consequences. Yes, these businesses have been here for a while. There are a lot of them we can trust. Then, if the only criteria for them to access capital is that they have been on ground for a while, it will detract from what we want to do.
I believe
a business can start today and yet.
Yeah, but I believe there'll be parameters, of course.
There will be parameters, but have you not heard of a business that came from the Netherlands or somewhere to haul garbage, and eventually they got an oil license? That's all done now and dusted. Nobody hears about that now, and nobody talks about it, with billions of naira gone down the drain. So yes, it is good what we are doing, but the issue of trust will not go away in one day. That's why I'm saying that no matter the amount of loss you have, people themselves have to want to and then do the right thing.
All right, Barrister Obajaja, the issue of, all that the president has announced and says he will do, but, that, on the other hand, is also, we cannot, rule out the presence, looming or otherwise, of Labour. And Labour has said that in spite of all the president has said, there's no going back on Wednesday, even though it says it will attend another round of talks today. But lawyers have even also spoken about the legality and otherwise of the strike in view of a said court ruling. But what's your, understanding, or what's your perspective, so to speak, about the presence of Labour at this time? At the onset, they said they would understand and run with the president, but now there is many groups are even saying they will also embark on the solidarity walk or industrial action. We don't even know what exactly is going to happen tomorrow. But what do you think?
Yes, we all understand with the government, and we also understand what the average Nigerian face as we speak. But then, that is the power of collective bargaining and freedom of association guaranteed by the Constitution. There may be a judgment, a court judgment. There's not going to be a court judgment, even at the level of the Supreme Court, that will say Nigerians cannot associate or protest. Rule that out. The NLC and other labor institutions are well within their rights if they want to protest because this is not right, or you've done this, we want more. So what is important is to guarantee a process that is non-violent and that does not allow security breaches. And it's the point I have made from top to bottom and from down up. If labor or other institutions are going to protest, you don't expect labor to go out with cordials and all that to protest. At a point, issues might arise. Who deals with those issues? The government. So labor has a right to protest. The government has a right to protect protesters. So labor can protest. We must understand that we live in times where you cannot rule out protests. In the past, it was Britain and its colonies who usually had a lot of protests. Now, what has been happening in France for 3 years? Ongoing protests, intermittent and all-out protests. So you can't rule that out. People will always be dissatisfied. But what is important is, if you have a government that understands, if you have a government that says it will do what it will do, when it starts doing those things, those who are protesting are reasonable people too. They also come to understand, oh, he said he will do this, he's doing it. And what do you have? You have a kickback against that stuff.
Okay. Well, let's go on a short break here. We'll be right back to continue the discussion with you. Stay with us. You're watching TVC Breakfast, and we on this segment are looking at all of the packed full statement nationwide in the nationwide broadcast yesterday. A lot of things the president said he was going to do, and they were part of all of the packages he's putting out together to cushion the impact of the removal of subsidy. And we have in the studio a lawyer and former secretary of the Nigerian Bar Association, Stephen Obajaja, and he is helping us make sense from different perspectives of this. Now, recall that in 2012, you alluded to it earlier, right. There was the removal of, or attempts to remove the fuel subsidy at that time under President Goodluck Jonathan. And we saw the reaction of Nigerians at that time. As much as Nigerians believe that there's something wrong with the subsidy, but at this time, all the presidential candidates in the last election, except Rabi Musa Kwankwaso, came out outrightly to say, in fact, some used the word scam. The subsidy was a scam. Some said it was a fraud, and so on. They all agreed on that term, that subsidy has to go. Somehow, the Tinubu has won, and then he ensured subsidy went, and there was no protest. If I may ask, what is the difference between 2012, attempt to remove subsidy, and 2013, in your own view?
I found one irony in the president's speech.
Okay.
Last night, the president said he always, all his life, supported the removal of subsidy. And now he has removed it. Right. And 2012 easily came to mind. The president was the national leader of the APC, who were stringent against Jonathan removing the subsidy. So the president could say that he has now seen that subsidy has to be removed and that he made it a campaign issue like others did. But to say that he always supported the reverse subsidy, if you always supported the reverse subsidy, what happened in 2012? Yes, times have changed. In 2012, I was one of those who also opposed it, supposedly on the fact that Nigerians have too much to contend with already. We thought we have suffered enough. But since then, we have continued to suffer. What Jonathan was communicating that we didn't see then, we are beginning to see. Imagine the level of protest at Ojota with the auspices and ambience of our indefatigable human rights lawyer, Gani, Fawemi, looking down on us. Imagine that level. Now, President Tinubu did that in 2023. How many years after? 10.
Well, about
2012. Yes.
About 10, 11 years.
Yes.
Thereabout.
What was the reaction of Nigerians? Most Nigerians said, okay, we understand. It now has to go. Because in the last 10 years, we have now been told, and there were court cases, people went to jail, how subsidy has been abused. How people did not import fuel, and yet they got subsidy for nothing. How people continue to steal oil from our shores, and nothing is happening. So that is what has happened now. 2012 and now, there's now more information in the public domain. People have now seen that, yes, what we didn't want to come upon us in 2012 has come upon us anyway. Remove this. Now you have removed it, and that is where we are. What's the way forward? How do we help Nigerians? How do we help ourselves? No palliatives, no subsidy anymore. Then what do the people fall back on? Okay. I think that's the difference between now
and that time. Okay. Yeah. Well, it's good to know, because it's the same idea, the same thought, or the same policy, but different reaction.
Yes.
It's all right. We have to leave it here now. Stephen Obajaja, former Secretary, Nigerian Bar Association, we commend you and thank you for your insight into this.